Hey beautiful people, welcome back to Angelic Embrace, where we document and narrate the glorious and life-changing near-death experiences sent in by you guys. It is greatly appreciated. So sit back, relax, know that you are loved, and let's get into today's near-death experience story. Consider subscribing and watching to the end to find out what happens. I suppose that the best place to begin is with a concise history. In December of 2001, only 6 months after the birth of my second child, I discovered that I was pregnant again. Because of this, the person I was seeing at the time grew enraged and attempted to coerce or intimidate me into terminating the pregnancy. I was distraught and guilt-afflicted. I ran away, but he threatened me so much that I had to come back. A few months later, I discovered that I was pregnant again, and as before, I was coerced and blackmailed into terminating the pregnancy. This would repeat itself once more a year later. After that, a year later, I had to have surgery for an ectopic pregnancy, and the day after my procedure, while I was still in the recovery area, he came in with our kid to say his goodbyes. He abducted my son and then abandoned me. After this, I uprooted my life and relocated to New York with my teenage son from a prior relationship so that I could be closer to my dad. In the following years, I spent a lot of time in and out of court because of my younger kid. During this time, I had been quite weak, and I didn't know what to do since I was completely lost. My back was giving me a lot of trouble, so I went to the doctor to get it checked out. As a result of this, I had to have surgery in February of 2014, and it was during this procedure that the surgeon spotted on the scans that I had many huge lumps in my uterus. I was advised to get it looked out once I had recovered from the injury. I made an appointment with a general OB/GYN in October of 2014, and I went to see her. By December, I was informed that a hysterectomy was necessary for me. On December 10, 2014, I checked into the hospital to have surgery. It was explained to me that there were issues as a result of the quantity as well as the size of some of the masses. I felt unwell when I was in the process of recuperating. My condition was not improving, and my physicians discovered that there was a hole in my bladder as well as a blockage in the tube that leads to my ureter. I was transferred to a different hospital for the 9-hour-long emergency repair operation that was necessary. It turned out that I did have a hole in my bladder, and my ureter tube had been sewed closed. In addition to that, my bladder had been sewn to the wall of my vagina and to the wall of my rectum, and 2 foreign items were extracted from my body. My encounter took place during this extensive maintenance procedure that was being carried out. The very beginning of my encounter was characterized by complete silence and pitch blackness. I came into view not long after the darkness had settled over this area. Everything about it, including the walls, the floor, and everything else, seemed to be living and breathing. There were these incredible bright lights embedded everywhere throughout the walls and floor of this location, and they moved in sync with the place's natural breathing. I positioned myself in the center and saw the entities of brilliant white light as they passed through the archways. Within this enormous dome, I found myself encircled by archways, but I was unable to locate the dome's apex. I was approached by 3 aliens that were blue in color. They were unadulterated love, devoid of any characteristics or sexual identity. They appeared to be this bright blue shape that was humanoid. They were walking toward me when suddenly 2 of them halted a little distance away, while the other continued to approach me. This creature did not communicate with me in any way that used spoken words or a human language. It was more like colors and noises of different frequencies. This creature approached me from my right side and placed a hand on my right shoulder. It indicated for me to look all about me with the other arm it had. As I gazed about, someone told me that here is the spot where the soul is born and where it ultimately departs. I stood there and watched as countless souls passed through the archways that extended beyond the scope of my eyesight. I was shown by the entities my soul's mission throughout all of my lives, and I saw and understood that I had been here and passed through these archways many times before. It made me feel quite at home there. The creature informed me that I would return to my body in order to finish my life, since I still had tasks to carry out at that point. I was directed to follow a white creature that was ready to travel through an archway that I was shown. I was shown the archway. In a flash, I found myself standing before the archway. The following second, I found myself reawakening in the operating room. During my time spent recuperating, I was confronted by departed souls. One of them was a little child by the name of Kenny who was attempting to point out the location of his body to me. Another person was an African-American man who sat next to me while I read the paper and provided me with information on sales on lawn mowers. The second person was a nurse who was frantically rushing about and scattering chocolates everywhere. It may not make any sense, yet all of this actually took place. Every day, I reflect on the experience that I had. I am aware of it and can recall in exact detail everything that occurred at that time. Since this event had place, the strange occurrences that I have always been aware of have become much more noticeable. I've always been strange in the sense that I see, hear, or experience things in a different manner than other people. But ever since I went through it, I now hear colors and noises. I am aware of frequency shifts and frequently have dreams that are realized. Because I haven't been able to identify anyone else who has had anything remotely similar to my experience, the entirety of this journey has left me with a profound sense of isolation. On to the next experience of being so close to dying. When I had this experience, I was approximately 19 years old and had just recently given birth to my first kid a couple of hours before to it. I was trying to remember when I got the desire to use the toilet, and I do remember that I attempted to get out of bed on my own. The infant was being held by both my mother and my younger sister while they were in the room. When I got up, I felt a tremendous rush, almost as if my bladder had burst, but it was actually my blood. When I saw blood on the ground, I recalled thinking to myself, that can't be right. The next thing that comes to me is that I was feeling warm. Nothing except pitch blackness appeared before my eyes. I didn't feel frightened. It felt nearly snug and comforting, like getting a hug from someone warm. Nothing could be heard by me at all. But just before I fell into the darkness, I thought I heard a nurse calling for a crash cart. It was right before I plunged into the darkness. I have no idea how long I remained in this dim and relaxing state of emptiness, and I have no recollection of what happened in the immediate aftermath of my experience. I do recall waking up in the hospital with my mother at my side, and she had a worried expression on her face as she fussed over me. Later on, over the course of the years, she confided in me that she believed she had permanently lost me. I have no fear of passing away, and I will never forget how reassuring the experience was for me. I had complete and utter peace of mind. I didn't feel any anxiety at all. The night was neither chilly nor terrifying. My fear of the dark has always been justified, but this wasn't even close to being pitch black. Due to the impact that this event had on me, I decided to pursue a career in nursing and have been working in this field since I was 23 years old.